it's such an elusive thing to think, oh, I am with Palestinians or I'm against Israelis. It is not about that. It is not about that. It's about that there is a group of people thinking that they can just colonize places, get money, extract resources, uh, resources, whether it's human or land or um, natural resources.
Welcome to another episode of the Olive Roots podcast. I'm your host, Chosi Ayub. Today we have somebody very special. She's Palestinian, Syrian, Tangata Tiriti. She's an artist, she's a director, she's a community organizer and human rights advocate in a journey of liberation. Her name is Rana Hamida. Rana,
Salam.
salam, how you doing, sis?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. 7:30 a.m. I'm awake.
Where are you now?
I am in Aotearoa, New Zealand, at my parents' home.
Wow, New Zealand, man. How is New Zealand
hmm
nowadays?
It's sunny in the morning, a little bit schizophrenic in the halfway between the morning and the afternoon, evening. And then the evening kind of goes all the way to tantrum and sometimes goes into like a rainy thing. But overall, we're kind of passing into summer, and the political climate is also going into schizophrenic mode too. So
Wow,
yeah,
it's like the weather is working with the politics, huh?
everything is working with everything, and it's like a microcosm of the macrocosm of what's happening in the world. It's just another reflection of what's happening, but it's very far away from everywhere else in the world. So you feel like you're in this little bubble where you're literally like oceans away from the closest place.
Yeah, I think a lot of our viewers, including myself, don't know much about New Zealand and what's been going on. Really, we know bits and pieces, but that's why I have you on the show as well. So let's start with your identity. I would love for you to share your ethnic background. Where were you raised? I understand you moved around. And how did you end up in New Zealand? And then we can move on to other topics. So the stage is yours.
Well, my name is Rana. I was born to two Palestinian parents, to two grandparents who were displaced in the Nakba in 1948, and they were displaced to Syria. So my father was 2 years old when that happened, and I was born in Syria, in Halab, Aleppo, and I lived there until I was 10 years old in the refugee camp called Handarat in in this beautiful hill over the mountain that people were just so nice and they were building their homes and asphalting the roads and just a beautiful community, very, very beautiful community. And then I went from Syria to the Emirates and I lived there for 12 years. And that's where I studied most of my school years. Um, Finished from there. And then I wanted to go to university. So we went back to Syria, to Halab, and we stayed there for 2 years or two and a bit years. And I was studying at Aleppo University, Commerce and Economics, until the escalations with the political climate over there starting to become a bit more intense. And then we decided to go from there and come to New Zealand as in a refugee pathway. My brother was already here, one of them, and we went to Egypt, stayed in Egypt for some time as a waiting area until our papers were accepted. So I continued studying university there too. And then as soon as the papers were organized here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we came here. And I literally did not know anything about New Zealand or anything called New Zealand at that point. And we arrived here 12 years ago, and we've been here. I started studying and moved different places, and here we are. That's in That's in a nutshell what the Whakapapa is, which is a word for the line, the lineage, and where we come from. So that's that.
Wow. So, okay. Born in Syria as a Palestinian, how much did you know about your Palestinian heritage in Palestine growing up in Syria?
Not much, not much. There was not much of a discussion per se or talks about it. But I was born in a place where, for example, at that point, Syrian government did not give us any Syrian passports because they wanted to preserve the fact that we are Palestinians and we have the right of return. So they did give us Palestinian refugee documents. So that was always part of who I am. Never really talked about it consciously, but it was like I had a Palestinian refugee document. I was in university, and some people would be super um, ignorant in the way that they would ask me, like, "Oh, where you're Palestinian? Like, do you live in tents?" And they didn't know that we would be living like a bus drive away from the university in houses, concrete houses, and everything super normal in that way. But at the same time, it was in a refugee camp on the top of the hill or the mountain. So everyone around us were Palestinians. Everyone around us did have that experience where they came through such situation. Um, my grandparent, my grandfather house was in that refugee document, refugee camp. So all the family or the uncles or the aunties would come to the house and we would be there. So the whole environment did preserve the experience of being Palestinian, the experience of Palestine. However, there was no much of a talking about it. And for me personally, from my observation, is there is a lot of trauma. Like there is a lot of trauma around talking about it. When I try and get some stuff from my father here and there, and it is interesting to see the process of which he goes through, explaining about being living in containers when they first came into Syria, and how he used to go to the factory where he used to work, and how was the condition at that point. So there is a lot of emotional connotations and bonds that are still connected to that experience, and that definitely did affect my experience in life. But it's only until not long ago, like 5 or 6 years ago, that I started connecting more with that in a conscious level when I came to New Zealand. So it is like who we are, but we don't talk about it until we're starting to be self-aware of all the things that are happening inside of us and the thoughts and the patterns and the things. That's for me my personal experience around it. So it's very interesting right now to kind of dabble even deeper into that and process all the things that are blocked when you block your identity on the human level. um, Very, very interesting navigation.
Yeah, that's interesting because, I come from Palestine and I was born and raised there. And even though we lived there under the occupation, it was hard to like have my dad talk about stuff, right? It's like try to pull teeth out of a lion, you know what I mean? Try to get him to share his dad's story of losing the house in 1948, them fleeing to Lebanon, then my dad being born in Lebanon during the war, as they call it. And then when they come back to occupied Palestine, their town was taken, their houses were taken or burned. Then they moved to Haifa. Then they started a new life. And that story was not really shared with me when I was young. We never talked about those things. I was just like, okay, we just live here and there's a checkpoint and there's this and there's that. And it's sad as a kid, you don't really understand. And you just kind of like go on with your life till you go to school around other Palestinians. and you first have your first interaction with an Israeli Jew, and you're like, oh, what language they're speaking? They're not speaking my language. Oh, why don't these people go to our school? And you start, I'm talking about as a kid, discovering. And because kids are curious, right? So you try to understand, you're asking questions, and then you understand that these people came, they're not from the land, and then they joined the military and they're brainwashed to hate us and kill us and arrest us. And that's not the original people of the land. And you start learning all that. And then as a Palestinian, you become in need of being a historian, a geography teacher, a biblical teacher, religious, guru, and all these things just to say, hey, I'm Palestinian, I deserve to live. So it's interesting that same experience as somebody who was expelled and lived in another country. So being in Syria for almost a decade plus, then you move to United Arab Emirates. How was that moving from Syria to the Emirat?
I think at that point I was 10 years old, and it was it was good because my father was in the Emirates 10 or like 5 years before that, living on his own, working. So at one point, we all decided that we're going to just come together, and we went from Syria to the Emirates, and we were there. So at the beginning, it was good, and then slowly it was, interestingly, just suffocating for some reason or another. In the school, it was amazing because it was multicultural. So there was people from all around the Middle East, Levant region, and I would be in the same classroom with an Egyptian and Lebanese, a Syrian, a Yemeni. And that was, I think, a very valuable thing that I've been through. And I only realized that later is how valuable it was to be in a place where there was everyone of that region together. And we were all friends in one friends group. And I was one of the people that were, study is the only thing that was for me. Like I was just studying. So that was my only thing that I was hanging on, but also the friends over there because I come from a very conservative family in a lot of ways. So I was not allowed to go out alone or do things on my own outside of the house. So that was my focus. It was being channeled into studying, and that was my main focus most of the time until I started becoming a bit more conscious of the fact that, oh, I do have my own thoughts and my own decisions that are not the same as this beautiful family that I'm within. And that started becoming a little bit harsher. So the family dynamics started becoming a little bit more of a struggle for me as I was growing up. And yeah, it was an interesting culture, right? When you're walking in the street, uh, it was clear that I was different from the people of that space, of that country, because they make it very clear that you are a second class citizen, if not third. And so, yeah, 12 years over there, mainly school. That was my school years. So it's kind of like compacted in that area of discovering who I am within a group of people from all around the world. Hmm.
Wow. So you are viewed as different, obviously, because we also view them as different because they don't have we speak the same language. That's pretty much it. The culture is different, the wardrobe, the clothes, the lingo, different kind of coexistence between different religions than there. It's just the Levant. It's just a very unique
Yeah.
place.
Totally, totally. And also, like, in Syria, we were kind of similar to Syrians in many ways. So I never really saw myself as a different person, other than having that refugee document. But everything else and our dialect and everything is kind of like the same. Our food is similar. And in Emirat, it was hugely different. And it was the first kind of experience of me being in a place where I felt different than the people around. but the school was a safe haven.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Okay, so then you go from Syria to the Emirat, you're focused on education. What did you study?
بالإمارات, I studied school, so all school years,
Okay,
and then I went back to Syria for university.
got it, got it. Okay, so you just finished like middle school, high school, all that, 12th grade,
Hmm.
and then you went to
Hmm.
Syria to go to university. Okay,
Yes.
so then after that, you guys decided to go to New Zealand because your dad was there trying to make a better life for y'all, obviously.
No, so
And
that's him in the Emirates. He was
okay,
in the Emirates, and that's when we went to the Emirates with him. And then at some point, we finished school, and I was like, going to university. Oh, university in Emirates is like you have to pay everything you have. We did not have anything to pay for university. So we were like, let's go back. Or I said, I'm going to go back to Syria to study university. And the whole family was like, let's go to Syria to study university. So we went back completely, all of us together, back to Halab, to Aleppo. And then I started studying in Aleppo University, Commerce and Economics. And it's literally like maybe after 1 year almost is when all the uprising and the protests and all of the revolutionary people starting coming up and going into protests. And that's a whole different story, of course, like with that experience and what I think about that. It's a whole different branch. But we stayed through that for another maybe like year and a bit or 2 years until a building next to us got bombed. And I remember myself at that point thinking I'm not prepared to die for something I don't believe in. And I personally don't believe in violence. That's a thing that is within my heart. Um, so we decided that we're going to be moving from that place, being in another place until two brothers I have, one in Canada and one in New Zealand. They both tried to work on our like refugee pathway. Um, and the one in New Zealand just got it faster. That's the only reason we are in New Zealand. So, but while we were waiting for that to happen, we went from Syria, went to Damascus, and then from Damascus, we took a bus. We went to Egypt because Egypt was at that point the only country that was taking Palestinian refugees with Palestinian refugee documents without a visa. And it was a strong process, like very fast process. So we went to Egypt. We stayed there for almost 9 months. And then we flew into New Zealand. As soon as our papers got accepted, we just flew out.
okay, so you get to New Zealand, culture shock, adapting, assimilating. What was the story there?
I got to New Zealand and I'm like, so okay, funny thing. I used to wear a headscarf, right? And I do respect hijab and I do respect everything about what is behind it. However, for me, it was not suitable. So as soon as I got into the airplane and 2 hours before getting into New Zealand, I went to the toilet. I took the headscarf off and I put a hat on and a scarf around my neck to like cover it. And I came back and my parents were just so in shock. They're like, what is that? And I'm like, I'm just gonna wear this from now on. And I sat there and I arrived here and I think I was very, very excited for the newness of something. I was on a high, like an adrenaline rush for almost like 4, 5, 6 years of me arriving here. And I arrived here, got my brother that lives here is there. We're very close. So I haven't seen him for a very long time. So it was a really nice reunion. Um, but also there was a lot of family dynamic that was happening at that point between me and my father, which affected my relationship with my brother. So there was a lot of that navigation. That's on one layer. On another layer, Rana is so excited about everything. She can do anything. but not necessarily. So there is that space where, wait, I have the freedom to do everything I want, but at the same time, I don't think I can because of so many barriers. And then on the other side, I started studying at university. I took a very intensive English course and then immediately went into university, which I tried to continue commerce and economics that I studied in Halab, but they didn't accept my undergraduate application. They accepted me on a graduate application. I was like, wait, but I have not arrived to the graduate application. One second. So I decided to start all over again. And they didn't accept me to continue because they wanted more information about the papers that I've studied. However, there was no way to get more information because the university in Halab at that point was shot and there was bombing and there was like a lot of things that was not, it's not possible. So I was like, I'm going to start all over again. So I started with a new degree that was in property. So I studied Bachelor of Property, everything renovation, marketing, building, um, evaluation, everything that. And at the same time, I started exploring more of the freedom that I was able to get. And when I say freedom, it's a very interesting concept because I experienced freedom at that point in a layer, in one layer that I thought freedom is. And then slowly, after having that kind of freedom, which is the physical freedom, which is the freedom to wear what I want without feeling like I have to be subjugated to something in the street, and um, feeling a little bit safer in a way that I can do anything I want, and somehow I'm protected, you know. But then later on, it just became really clear that this place is not free at all. It is not free because it is controlled and brainwashed in a different layer. In a different layer, we always think as in like, and maybe at that point we had that idea of that, in the Levant region is more conservative, and then in the Western world is more free. But actually, they're all controlled in a layer or another. It's only that here is a little bit more subtle. It is not about what you wear, but also it is about what you wear because you are being bombarded all the time with specific fashion that at one point you question yourself, is that actually my taste? Or is it something that I'm fit to so we can keep the machine of buying and commercial um, business working? And the same thing with the mentalities. Like now we are seeing here that people are rising up and saying, "Hey, this is not okay. What's happening in Palestine? This is a genocide. We need to cut ties with Israel because we are receiving blood money in our society, and that's just going around." But we are being silenced. So that freedom of thought and freedom of feeling is really in question in this place. But at that point I did not know that. At that point I had that first layer of freedom that I wanted to wear whatever I want, and I wanted to go anywhere I want, and I wanted to say what I want and all of these things. And I definitely did push the boundaries of where I come from. I definitely did push every little boundary that I saw in my sight and I didn't see as well. So started studying and then started dabbling with modeling and acrobatic yoga. I somehow heard on the radio. That's when I was maybe in my second year. I heard on the radio that there is a circus scholarship that is going around and the auditions are at that day. And I'm like, what else do I have to lose? At that point, I really felt like I've lost everything from where I came. And I felt like I was lighter in a way. And I went and I did the audition and I started and I got a scholarship in the circus. So I started training with the circus. And that was all in secret from my family. So I would go out of the house, going to the university, And instead of going to the university, I would take the bus and I would take another bus and go back to the circus school and train in the circus. And that lasted for like 2 years of this secret space where I met the most amazing humans. And I kept doing modeling. And then university and study started becoming a little bit harder because at that point, my focus, which is study, which has always been, is being faced by hobbies and interests that I am now able to do. And so I started kind of like trying to balance these two together until I graduated. بعد أجبيني.
With the sweat of her forehead. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you did the circus world. That's fun. I bet that was fun.
It's super fun, super fun. And dealing with your fear, I have a fear of height sometimes. But to like be there and just climb on things all the way up and feel my heart falling down and then do a drop. That was dealing with fear on a cellular level, because fear is a concept, right? And it brings chemicals and interactions in our bodies, which sometimes get us in a freeze mode or running mode. But over there, when we put ourselves in these situations where we dabble in fear and play with it or like be with it in a safe environment where I know that I'm safe, I'm with people that um, know what they're doing, but at the same time, it's my choice to be there. So there's no need to be afraid. And you really start kind of dissolving the cellular, like the experience of fear, slowly, one drop at a time.
Wow, I had a friend. I haven't talked to him in a minute, but I mean, if I talk to him, it feels like yesterday. His name is Fadiz Murrud. He did circus in Palestine. Then he went to Ireland. Then he went to Iceland, and he started traveling doing circus. So that was very interesting to see how he got into that because I didn't see that coming. When I start seeing the pictures, I'm like, oh man, he's really good, and he was very happy. So I can see how fun it would be. So okay, you're in New Zealand, and then you see the news coming out of the Holy Land, and October 7, and then you see what happened after that, as a collective punishment, right? That's what I call it, which turned to a genocide. And it's still going. They slowed down, but it's still killing and affecting lives in Gaza and beyond Gaza, like the West Bank, South Lebanon, parts of Syria, Yemen, and so forth. So, what happened in New Zealand when all those things happened? And what kind of people were you surrounded with? How much did people know about the situation between Palestine and Israel? And how did your life change?
Hugely, hugely. After some time of being here, I started going to festivals. So I kind of uh, experienced nightlife for the first time. And then I was introduced to festivals and music and arts festivals, Bushdoofs. And I started going there and I started performing there. I started DJing psychedelic trance music, which is a very, very um, common and spread out music style in what's called Israel and between Israelis. So I met a lot of Israelis in festival seasons. I went to Australia for some festivals, and I went to India for some festivals, and I played in all of them. So I did meet the community in a lot of places, and it's a beautiful community. The people are so amazing. When you're in these dance floors, you really feel that oneness. You feel that place of, beyond the physical boundaries and what color and what nationality and all of this illusion of division that exists. It is a very amazing and potent space to experience that. However, when everything started, escalated, I never say that 7th of October was a starting point, because it was never a starting point. It was a reflection of years of systematic oppression and ethnic cleansing. It was a step, it's just another thing in the lives of Palestinians that they've been living over 77 years under such oppression. So I always say I don't condone violence and I do not condone any kind of violence, but also I can see it and I can see why it would get to that point. So it is never an excuse, but it's an understanding of why would we get somewhere. And if we don't want to get to that place, if I reflect on something that I am in right now, then I reflect on that thing and I look at all the things that led me to be in this place for me to learn and be able to mitigate that from happening again. And that could be my violence against myself. It could be negative talks that I tell myself. It could be on that level. So I never say that it was the start of it, but it was an escalation and a continuation of systematic oppression. And when that happened, it was a conflict for me first, because I was part of that festival world. I was part of this festival world that I've experienced so much freedom and so much love and so much unity and so much all of that beautiful thing, beauty. So when the attack happened and there was some events happening in Nova Festival, but at that point it was only just Hamas have gone through and killed people. The truth of what was happening was not out yet at that point. The truth of that there was a Hannibal directive, the truth that there was people from Israel shooting at people from Israel, that was not out yet. But the whole event at that point was really, really messed up for me, because I was just like, that is violence committed against a place where I belong to, which is the festival space, which I know that it's a very amazing place. But then very quickly, that triggered in me being like, wait, I am Palestinian. These people are festivaling literally on the border of an open air prison. Within me, there was two. There was the Palestinian that was experiencing suppression and oppression and ethnic cleansing, literally ethnic cleansing outside of Palestine. And then there's the part of me that is that festival carefree, like that it doesn't matter where we're from, it doesn't matter what we talk or what we speak and stuff, we're all one and all of that. So there were both of them that were just like here, just shaking next to each other. And I was paralyzed in bed for like almost a week or more. Whenever I wake up, I just scroll through the news and I look through the news and I was just like, okay, and I switch it off and I stay in bed until at one point I reminded myself. At that point, I have been studying somatic practices and ecstatic dance, and I have the tools. I've been studying and teaching meditation and yoga. So I had the tools to get myself out of that state. I had the tools, and I just needed to remember that I did have the tools. It's just one day I just woke up and I was just like, I have the tools to deal with this and I need to get up, because me staying here is not going to help anyone. So I got up from there and I just started kind of like doing my somatic practices, getting back into my body instead of being in my mind. That space of, okay, now there is action to be done. What is that action to be done? Like what do I do? I am literally at the end of the world. On the other side, all the people that were in the festivals, that were friends, that were people that we've been talking and we've been dancing together and we've been holding spaces with people to navigate their shadows, to navigate the things that arise, their traumas. We literally were holding spaces together for that. And there was this silence from these places. silence, complete ignoring that there is something happening. Even worse, that whenever I would put a post up with like pictures of the victims in Palestine and all the things that have happened in Gaza, and that all of the uh, women and men that have been killed with cold, distant blood, they would be like, "Oh, but, oh, oh, but, oh, but they start, oh, but they started." And because the psytrance, psychedelic trance scene is full of Israelis, I had some people that were identified as Israeli artists that I had in my in my music library. I had them in my Facebook. So whenever I put something, the funny thing, what I noticed is that not them that would be commenting, other people that are from the Psytrance community would be commenting about these things and being like, "Oh, but they started." So it was a very big conflict for me, and I started going more. And before I used to go to the protests that would happen here because we have a solidarity network group in here in Tamaki Makaurau, which is the original name for Auckland. Um, and they used to do regular monthly protests. However, since the genocide escalated, we've been doing it every weekend. So I literally just started going to every little protest that there was, and that was for me the minimum that I can do. This is I didn't know what to do at that point, other than posting about it, talking about it, and going to protests. So I did, and then slowly and at the same time I was working in a center. So I work as a guide for not meditation, flotation tanks, so sensory deprivation. And I was working in the center, and I was like going around completely confused. The New Year's is about to come. Um, and in New Year's, my schedule is like full on. I am playing in all of the festivals. So even on New Year's, I go and I play in multiple festivals on New Year's. So I was just in a place where I cannot possibly imagine myself going and playing music for people to dance and lose themselves while people are being murdered. And I didn't know how to navigate that until at one point I was like, wait, I have a platform. That's what I have. I have a platform, and it's not necessarily an online platform only. I have a stage that I can stand on with hundreds, if not thousands of people in front of me, and I can use that. Now the question, how can I use it? I didn't know, but I knew that the first step was to go through my library, my music library, and take off all Israeli producers that I have in my library. And that was encouraged and affirmed for me when I saw that there was some of these producers going to serve in the IOF at that point. So I was just like, well, I don't know what to trust. Like, I don't know if this person, like, I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush. I don't want to ever paint everyone with the same brush. But what I am seeing is that there is silence, there is complicity, and there is active participation. That's what I see. So I do with what I can with the information that I have. So I went and I just cleaned the whole library. I started organizing and getting more music from like uh, Serbians and Syrian producers, and just basically just went into a hunt on frequencies, music that I felt like it was clear and clean frequencies, because there is a big responsibility being in, responsible for a dance floor with people that some of them are in substances, and they are very sensitive to the frequencies that you're playing through this massive sound system. And for me, I was feeling like that responsibility need to be reflected with the choice of music and where is this coming from. I think at that point, where is this coming from started to emerge. where is this coming from, started to emerge or be integrated in the real 3D world that we live in. Because before that, I have worked with the concept, where is this coming from internally? So when I feel something, I'll be like, okay, where is this coming from? Like, where is it? Fear? Is it that, 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 that? But then in that point, it was about where is this coming from? Like, where is this thing that I'm buying coming from? Is it funding a genocide? Like, am I funding it slowly with my lifestyle and my choices ignorantly? Like, how ignorant am I in where I'm investing my energy? And that started becoming really big and slowly kind of becoming bigger and bigger, taking through an embodiment of what is this. And that comes on another layer too. Like in the festival scene, I was not only a DJ, but I was also a meditation guide, and I would support in spaces of like dealing with your own internal shadows, which they called it. Slowly, they made whole festivals out of this, and they called it conscious festivals. And I used to go to these conscious festivals with people that supposedly go into knowing where their fears come from and where's the limitations and conditioning and mental and like liberation of self, of expression, all of these things, opening your heart and living from your heart, Mary Magdalene kind of space. So these people too were silent. And that was really confusing because I'm like, wait a minute, if you are preaching this to people and you're not embodying it, you're not integrating these teachings outside of the classroom, you're not integrating these teachings outside of the festival. Now it is the time to integrate active meditation outside of the classroom, not only on your mat. How can you remain centered while you are navigating these things? So all of this was silent. All of that was silent. That was my surrounding at that point. My only sanity was in going to protests and talking to people that are in the same space, either in a place of like we need to do something or a place of like I don't know what to do. And both exist at all times. I'm not ever saying that I'm just like always knowing what to do. Absolutely not. It's actually like I'm just in places right now even more than before where I'm just like I don't know what to do more to make any difference. But we keep continuously doing this incremental little things that hopefully makes a little bit of difference, even if it's 1% of that, and it is 1% of what is needed to be done. So that's that point. And slowly, I just there is one point where I went to my friend and I was just like, I don't understand how people are not just going there. Like, what are they gonna do? Shooting everyone? If everyone just come together and walk there, walk towards the borders, what's gonna happen? What's the worst thing that they could do? And if we're all there, they cannot do anything because they need all of us to pay for their products that they produce and export out. So my friend was like, well, actually, they did that. They did that with a boat, and that's the name of the organization that was handling the New Zealand delegation. And I immediately contacted him, and his name is Roger Fowler, and he takes care of an organization here called Kiora Gaza. Kiora means like if I say salam, it's Kiora. But then also if something is good, I can say Kiora. It's the word that is used for goodness in a lot of ways. And the name of that was Kiora Gaza. And Kiora Gaza handled delegations that were going from New Zealand to other parts of the world to join a campaign called Freedom Flotilla Coalition. Freedom Flotilla Coalition has been running for over 10 years, and they would not sell, they would send boats towards Gaza carrying humanitarian aid, carrying human rights activists, media people, doctors, and they would go and try to break the siege. The siege that at that point was denied to exist. There was no siege. We already pulled ourselves out of Gaza. They are free, autonomous. However, they just can't fish outside of a specific nautical miles, and no one can really enter through the sea. So, like, there's no siege though. They're totally free. They're completely free. And these ships from the Freedom Flotilla Coalition did prove year after year that there was indeed a siege because there was indeed an interception, illegal interception in international waters, as what happened with the Global Storage Flotilla. And that was happening almost every year or every couple of years. So I went to him and I spoke with him and we talked and I expressed that I am really keen to be part of that, to be part of actual action that is not being stopped by the conditioning of what we can't do that. Oh, they got intercepted before, so why would we try again? I had that fire inside of me that no matter what happened before, we have to keep trying. And I don't think that my safety is more important than the safety of the people that are now experiencing massive breach in human rights. And I sometimes I don't even call it breach; it's a rape of human rights right now, and human rights that are not only for the people that are living in Palestine, but a rape of human rights everywhere around the world that are witnessing this unfolding. So I talked with him and he was like, yeah, it's happening soon. Da, 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 da. There's this person in Aotearoa that have done it before and he's Palestinian. So and he's a Christian but Palestinian too. So I did meet with him randomly another time and we talked about the flotilla and um, then we decided that we're going to do it. So we got in touch with the people. He had already did it. His name is Yusuf Samur. He had already did it in 2008. And then we got we got to it. We went to Barcelona and no, we went to France that day and we joined Hamdallah. We joined Hamdallah with amazing group of people that were all there for a very courageous choice to be there. That's what I felt. And after some time, it was clear for me that it was not courageous at all. It was just a normal response to such extreme circumstance, such extreme oppression that I haven't honestly seen before. As a Palestinian, I haven't even comprehended before. And that was just normal. So whenever people would be saying, oh, that's so brave, that started hitting a different tone for me. It's like, actually, it is not. It's just normal human behavior. And we went with Hamdullah and we did not end up going all the way to Gaza because there was some technical problems with the boat. So we stopped in Malta. But on the way, we passed by a lot of stops in Italy, in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in Greece. And we did go down and we spoke with solidarity groups. We spoke with media people. We spoke with politicians in their houses where they sit and be like, if there's one thing that I ask for, it's world peace. And then when you ask them, what are you doing for that? They're doing nothing. So it was at that point that started to become clearer what does complicity means. That's when I learned the word complicit and active participant, because our complicity is an active participation of the continuous killing of the Palestinian people and the humanity in general. So that's when I learned this new word over this mission. And we came back to Aotearoa and we started going to, we just continued going to protests. We continued doing a lot of community work, uh, a lot of gathering for people, a lot of visuals. Um, we really felt like the community started coming together more and more because of that intense trauma that is being we're all experiencing of not knowing what to do. This that feeling helpless and tied in your hands, and even the expression that, hey, this is wrong. What can we do to the government, which is an elected government, which should be representing the people, and then to slowly that removing the veil for the people here, that actually that's not the case. So there was also parallel activities happening within the local government, being like, we, before going to Hamdallah, I had that feeling of we can change the world by changing ourselves. And I still a huge believer in that, a huge believer. It's a big part of how can we impact change in this life. However, the other layer that got to me is that we can't go one way. We can't just go inside out. I can't just change myself and the world will change. I have to go inside out and outside in. So I have to change what I think about and question and reflect and learn the patterns of which my brain and my heart functions and is limited by. But at the same time, I have to apply pressure politically and outside on the powers that are inflicting these circumstances and these atrocities on everyone. The ones that are taking the reins in their hands as if this is their world and they can just do whatever they want. They can just grow the arms industry. They can just go and colonize wherever country they feel like they have profit in. They can just kick people out. If we don't agree with that, we have to state that very clearly and we have to be very active in how we express that. And we have to be organized because that side is very organized. It is very organized. We have a lot of passion. We have a lot of truth and we know what we're standing for. We know what we're standing for. However, we are not organized enough. And that's what we've been working on. We've been working on organizing communities, bringing people together, seeing what else we can do together in a way that activates people not only to show up and protest, but to show up on protest and then go out of the protest knowing that there is a community that will continuously be standing with you and that there is more steps to do and it's not doesn't only stand or stops there. So we continued doing that after the Hamdallah. And then at one point, the global March to Gaza came online. And me and my two friends we just talked and we were like, do we want to go? And the consensus was yes. So we fundraised and we took an airplane, couple of airplanes. We got our visas. That was all within 1 week. Within 1 week, everything was sorted. Fundraised by busking in the street with the help of some people, because I do sing and I do DJ. So I was just like, let's busk in the street. We busked in the street. We went on we did one concert and the funds were raised in like two events over 3 days. Done. Visa was applied to. We received the visa 1 day before the airplane. Ticket was already booked. We went over there, two airplanes away, arrived there. We cleared all of the memory of anything that feels a little bit itchy for powers that are scared of being exposed. And we arrived to Egypt. And we got to literally got the stamp and we got to the last point of that airport. And they stopped us there. They stopped us there and they started looking through our luggage. They had information, intel that people are going to be arriving, and the thing that you are looking for is sleeping bags, small backpacks, these things that are not necessarily a I'm staying here in a hotel kind of thing. So they looked through everything. My bag was not arrived yet. I only had a backpack that had my main things. So my actual bag with all of the things in it was stuck in China because I had my power banks in it. Because why not? So I was in Egypt with that bag with only my like personal one, and they stopped us, searched everything. Um, they were like, okay, just a few more checks. They took us back to another room, just a few more checks, and there was people that were all there, held in these offices. And they were checking your phone, they were checking your passport, they were checking your bags, all of these things. And then they were like, okay, we're going to take you to another room. It's just procedure. Sure. They took us to another room, and every time they take us to to another room, it would be further back into the airport from where we came, where we started. And it was clear. We got to the last point. We stayed there for almost like 4 hours or 5 hours with people that have been staying there for over 2 days, refusing to go back home to be deported. And they started taking everyone's passport and checking them. And they were like, we're gonna come back to you. Like, you just need to rest here. I think my personality is a little bit into caring to what people need. So I would like talk to people that are speaking Arabic, and I would translate. I would speak to people that don't speak Arabic, and then I would be the translator in between them. I would ask for water for people. And I think upon reflection on that, when later on, I was like, I think this was a part of why they deported me back. So at the end of it, they allowed my two friends, which we all hold the same passport into and the same visa. They allowed them to go into Egypt, and they came to me with my passport and my boarding pass, and they're like, your airplane is about to go. So I was singled out from my friends and deported back while they were allowed to go in. And at the same time, they allowed other people to go in, but they were like, you're not going in. You're welcome anytime, any other time, but you're not going in right now. And the reflection why I say that it was part of it, or maybe it was, is because I think I presented myself, or I was there as an organizer more than just a random person that is going there. And I don't think that was something helpful for them to feel like get her in. So it was a lesson for me that maybe in another time I can just chill out and not make a big presence with these things. But it was a natural thing because that's naturally what I do. So they just deported me back. They refused me entry. They literally escorted me to the airplane. They handed my passport to the guy in the airline, and they dealt with me like a prisoner, complete prisoner. And I arrived back to China. I was the first person to take off the airplane with the staff. My passport was handed to the Chinese immigration and customs. So they were like, "You're deported. Like, what did you do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You need to ask them." So I was dealt in China as well as a hostage until I booked my out flight from there. And as soon as that was booked and they put me into departure, they gave me my passport back, and I was like, okay, I'm free to be me again. And I had options. I was thinking at that point, I'm gonna take another plane and go back. But the Chinese were like, no, you can't do that because that would be problematic for us because they deported you towards here. So I had all these different ideas of what can I do? Can I go to another country and then fly from there? Do I da 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 da? But slowly later, I just felt like maybe it's better if I use this energy and invest this energy helping the people that went through instead of trying to go in it. So I booked a ticket back to Auckland to Tamaki Makaurau, and I came back home. I came back here. I went on my laptop, and I started establishing the connections with all the delegation, the Aotearoa delegation in Egypt. So all the people that were over there, we made a group together, and I was there, and I was basically their point of contact in Aotearoa. So I worked before even going there. I was working with getting all these like authority to act to one of our amazing human that are here, who is one of the political parties or she's part of a political party that is the only one that shows up to almost all of our protests and speaks very, very out loudly about it. Her name is Chloe Swarbrick. She's from the Green Party, and she even has now a bill that is introduced to the parliament to sanction Israel. It's a sanctions bill. So I was in touch with her, and we were working on making sure that the people that are in Egypt are safe. So I continued working with them as an organizer from outside, from here, and keeping a track with everyone, making sure that everyone is safe at home. Where they go? Where did they go? They're out of Egypt. Read it out. Awesome. They're safe. Turn to the next one until everyone was out. And I continued working with the Global March to Gaza in a way of organizing and uh, working out and planning what is the next thing until they asked me, hey, there is a new mission coming up. Would you like to be part of it? And I said, absolutely 100%. And that was the Global Sumud Flotilla. Global Sumud Flotilla was there. At the same time as the Global March to Gaza, there was the convoy, the land convoy through Libya and Tunis. So these members of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, um, land convoy, Global March to Gaza, and other members, I think, from the Nusantara, who came later, they all came together and they were like, "We're gonna join forces to make the biggest flotilla ever." And I joined them. I was just directed towards the groups of organization. I joined them and we started organizing and we started gathering the delegation in here in Aotearoa. So um, uh, I got Yusuf Samour on board with that. And then I got other people that have skills that I know that they would like to be part of this all together. We came together and we started working on how can we support this mission. So we started fundraising, we started doing events, we started recruiting some people and vetting them. At the same time, we were in logistics and secretariat with meetings internationally with people from all over the world that are part of this. And that continued until we held all of our bags and we went to Barcelona. And we were in Barcelona for some time preparing the ships, met everyone, did a lot of organizing over there, and then I was part also. I was the co-head of the delegation in here, and I was also the lead for media. And then when we went there, I had other people that were on land here that were doing this job, and over there I was mainly an organizer of the people and the boat that was in, because I was put in a boat that is all women, and I was the organizer of that boat. So that was my responsibility, in addition to supporting with the preparation on land at that port. Um, yeah, and then we went out, and that was the start of the Global Sumut Flotilla when we went to Barcelona.
Wow, you've been on quite a journey.
So a long path. When I say supporting liberation, it's a very big thing because we do start with the liberation of our own mind and conditioning and you know our feelings, were we able to feel, were we not able to feel, and all of these things. But then that reflects, right? It reflects on the world around us and how we relate to the different waves that happen around us in our lifetime. So that liberation movement, it is really internally and externally, and it's not disconnected. It is one of the same. Because if you're doing the internal work, that will reflect on how we relate to the world around us. And it doesn't reflect by passiveness. It doesn't reflect by disconnection. It actually, if anything, it reflects in feeling connected to everything and feeling like what's happening to my sibling or my brother and sister over there is happening to me too. And it's not just there, that distant um, event happening over there. So it is not easy. We are living in a lifetime where it's not straightforward or easy being human, and we are in a human experience. So whether we like it or not, disconnecting from that part of us is only going to take us into more struggle. So we either do it willingly or it's ripped through us and we are feeling it. Like people are feeling everything, regardless of whether they're like acknowledging what's happening over there or not. They're feeling it in different aspects in their lives. And if anybody is watching and being like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, well, it is because the world is crazy. The world is going crazy. There is a disease called disconnection and illusion that is there, that somehow it's okay if that happens on some people, but it's not okay if it's happened in this time on this people. So it is a journey and it's continuously. We'll never stop. This journey would never stop.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we're all connected, even if we don't know it, around the world. And some people are more aware of other communities and other countries that are going through oppression, genocide, whatever it might be, that is just a misery. And I think when things happen in Gaza for the past 2 years, as much as they try to hide it on social media, on mainstream media, it just flooded. This was like the dam just broke, and you can see all the footage coming out of Gaza, especially of the children, right? You can try to justify killing the adults, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you have a cold heart. But when you start seeing children under the age of 5 that don't even know life yet, or the world, or anything, or religion, or color, or whatever you want to label it as, everybody saw that. So at this point, it's either you have a conscience in you, the humanity that God gave you, or you don't. Or you know that you have it, or you don't. And what I notice is that during that, some people were watching the footage coming and it was breaking their heart, regardless of where they stand. And some people decided to do, well, if I don't look at it, then it's not happening, right? It's kind of like seeing a poor person on the side of the road. You can A, go help, whether it's food, money, water, or just a conversation, right? Or B, you can look at them and be like, yeah, if I look away, then that person does not exist. Therefore, I don't have to do anything. And I feel like this is what I experienced here in the United States. There were people that were on their phone scrolling, and oh, children with no arm keep scrolling. Oh, a dog doing something funny. Then keep scrolling. Oh, people getting bombed in Gaza. I scroll it. I've seen that with my own eyes, waiting for the doctor. They're just scrolling through dead bodies and dead children, and they're waiting for the stuff that they want to be busy with, whether it's Beyonce or Jay Z or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whatever it is, Kim Kardashian or whatever they try to watch, right? And I'm like, this is where your humanity is right now. Celebrity talk and gossip. You don't understand how this is affecting you, even in America. Your tax dollars are funding a genocide. Every bomb that drops on Gaza is funded by the tax dollars, including me, because I live here. And I had to repent every day and ask God for forgiveness because I have no control. I have to pay taxes, otherwise, I'll be in prison. So I have to ask God for forgiveness daily. And these people just, life goes on. Oh, what are we having for lunch tomorrow? And you talk to them about Gaza, and they're like, yeah, well, it doesn't affect me. And I'm like, it doesn't affect you? What do you mean? How would you feel if your children were getting blown to smithers? Or the people that be like, well, like you said, they started, well, they attacked, well, you saw, then, and the propaganda and all that. And it's interesting how you talked about being torn between two communities. The community of the music people that was like, hey, let's sing Kumbaya, let's all be together, nationality, race, gender doesn't matter. And then you have the part of you who's like, bro, my people are getting bombed right now. They're getting killed again. They're getting expelled again. They're getting ethnically cleansed and genocided again. And now it's on steroids. So, like, you had this battle. That's interesting because I had a similar battle here. As a Palestinian Christian, I'm going to church, I'm going to these churches, and I'm seeing them, oh, let's pray for Israel and the people of Israel and the Jewish people. And I'm like, what about praying for the Palestinian people, regardless of their faith? And I'm watching TV and I'm seeing Israeli flags in churches. God bless Israel. And I'm like, what are these people doing? And then I'm looking at my Bible and I'm like, what is these people talk about? Bless Israel. What are you talking about? Where is Jesus in all this? Is Jesus in the Israeli tank or is he under the rubble with the children? And I was like, well, I'm not going to be silent. And I started going to churches and just going, talking to pastors, arguing with them, just having discussions. And I made a film called The Colonizer, which talks about the parable. It's a parable of the ruin of Palestine in 1948 from the Palestinian Christian perspective that doesn't really differ much from the Palestinian Muslim or Jewish perspective. You know what I mean? But I'm like, let me connect with these people somehow because apparently they don't care about Muslims. So I'm like, okay, well, do you know that we exist? And I was like, they're like, no, like, it's a fight between Muslims and Jews. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they were so ignorant and they were just catching up to season 75, episode 10 of the story. And then I had to tell them, okay, do you know what happened October 6th, October 5th? What about October 7th on 1948? What about this? What about 1967? What about what happened even before 1948? Do you know the history of these people? Do you know our history? Do you know our DNA? Do you know where we come from? Ignorance, man. So I was very vocal and I had to speak and I was battling with this. So I was like, okay, these people are using the Bible as a weapon. I'm using a Bible to be close to God. They're using the Bible to bring prophecies of let's kill everybody in Palestine and bring the Jews so Jesus can come back. And I'm like, what kind of Jesus are you following? Are we reading the same Bible? Are we following the same Jesus that preached love, peacemaking, forgiveness, prayer? Where is God? Where is Jesus in all that? What kind of Jesus did you customize Jesus to? He's a political figure that says, God bless America. Like, what kind of Jesus are you looking at? So it really like irked me, man. It made me very angry, like a righteous anger. And the way they're so ignorant. And luckily, I talked to the church that I go to. They were not Zionist, but they didn't understand much about Palestine. And then I showed my film there and I went on the stage and they asked me questions and I showed them documentaries to watch about what happened to Palestinians from the mouths of Palestinians, regardless of their faith. And then I showed them what the Palestinian priests in Bethlehem and outside say about their genocide in 1948, how they lost their homes. And slowly you can see things started moving in their head and they started going back to their Bible and really learning the word from the Bible, which is the word of God, rather from a pastor that is trying to put their own interpretation, that is trying to spread Zionism. Because God is not a real estate agent. God is not in the business of land. God is not in the business of collecting foreskin from children. God is not in the business of money. God is in the business of people. God cares about every human being and he loves every human being regardless who you are. And it breaks his heart to see you walk away from him or sin or do all these things or kill. I mean, when you look at, they call them the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Islam, Christianity. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not murder. So murder, we should be against it. Whether a Palestinian does it, an Israeli does it, regardless of the story, we can't justify it. It should not happen. Now, if it's a war between two armies, that's a different topic. Or if you're protecting yourself, self defense. But you still have to live with that, right? But thou shalt not murder. So, what kind of Bible are these people reading? That it's all murder, 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 kill, kill, kill. Hallelujah, Jesus is coming. So, it's heresy, it's blasphemy. And I was just like you, torn in those two worlds. So, I was like, start cutting off people from my life. I already knew about the control of Zionism. I already knew what the Israelis believe. I already knew their traditions and the religion they follow. And I was like, whatever, God will deal with that. But how about these people that call themselves Christian and they're supporting this? That's what drove me crazy. But I believe that the tide is turning. A lot of people are waking up. This is not a religious war. They try to pretend that it's a religious war. This is politics, colonization, imperial colonization. It's a colonial project, just like the rest of them that existed. We are not the only ones who are dealing with this. The Native Americans here dealt with that. The Australians, the Aborigines dealt with that. Many other countries in Africa, South America, and we can go thousands of years ago. But now this is an imperial project that is happening today. And this is the first time the colonizer comes to a land and say, I come from that land. Usually a colonizer goes get a land and they say, well, we conquered it. We took it. Okay, it's not yours, but you took it. Kind of like Americans, right? We're all here. It is what it is. But now we're witnessing that this entities try to grow roots there. So now when you ask in 20 years, 30 years, a kid, where's your grandpa from? He's going to say Israel. While right now, where's your grandpa from? Poland, Germany, Morocco, China, Ethiopia. None of them are from there. So this entity is building roots. So soon, these kids that are born there that are Israeli, they're not going to know anything because they're going to be like, my grandpa's Israeli. Because kind of like, how much can I trace my great great grandpa? I don't know his name. I know my dad's, and barely it's foggy there. But apparently, these people can trace their heritage and lineage to a tribe of Israel 5,000 years ago somehow. Whatever. You're not fooling me, buddy. And you have the highest skin cancer rates in the world for a reason, and DNA testing is illegal over there for a reason. But and you're allergic to olive trees, but yeah, whatever. But I can relate to you with that. How is New Zealand right now? Is it more Zionist occupied? Is it more split in the middle? What are you noticing?
There are three sections. There is a section that is very supportive of the Palestinian people, and the atrocities that are happening are clear to them. So they are very active. They post a lot. They come out on protest. They support families in Gaza, and they do show up in general. You have another section that is silent. It's like, I'm going to continue my work. I'm with you. I want to support, but I don't want to support. This kind of like foot in, foot out. Some of them do support in silence. Like they call me, for example, be like, how can we help? How can we support? Um, some people I did hold accountable, for example, of like, you are teaching that, but you're not applying that. But then you have the third section, which is a very little section that is Zionist. Okay, Zionist, and they're not Israelis. We have Destiny Church here, that is also evangelical, and it is regardless of what kind of sector of Christianity they are a cult of people that, and they're even Maori, so they are original people. They supposed to know exactly what it is to be occupied, to be colonized, to be uprooted. But they demonstrate the extent of internalized colonization, and even Maoris that are on with us in most of the protests, they come and they say they are not Maori. They do not represent. Brian Tamaki is one of their leaders, and he went on interviews with Israeli um, channels. They were like, "This is a Christian country," about Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is not the case. Christianity was brought with the people that came to colonize the place, so it was not before a Christian country. So he's like, it's a Christian country and we need to claim our Christianity back. Has nothing to do with what's happening, has nothing to do with Israel or anything, but they think it's biblical. They think it's biblical exactly as your experience over there, and they run with it. But they are kind of a gang too. So they do go into events for queer people, and they like go and basically threaten them and get physical with them. They are against a lot of human rights in here, and they just show up in anything that is going to be in support of their agendas, and they feel like they are supported by Israel for some reason, and that's what they do. So we have these three sections. We have these, and they are very clear, and the polarity is intensifying as we go because now we are applying more pressure politically. We're taking it to the parliament. We're going with the sanctions bills. We are showing up on their offices in different cities. We are very very active with the boycotting and the BDS movement in different supermarkets. So we go there and we basically call for boycotting as well as sanctions on the governmental layer. So I think the escalation, and that applies in anywhere, like the escalation of a part is going to be escalating the other side. We should never think that the more we did in support, the better it's gonna get. It is not like that, and maybe it will result in things shifting and the scale balancing. However, at the beginning, and I always continuously think of where we are as the beginning, even though it feels like it has been going for ages. But I'm just like, no, 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 this is the beginning. So base it, make it sustainable, breathe, focus, invest in the right places, because this is the beginning. Okay, don't burn your candle too quick, because this is a long, long fight. So, and as you said, it did not start with Palestine, and it's not going to end on Palestine if we don't stand up and deal with this to really the best of our ability in so many different layers. And even right now, it's not only in Palestine; it's happening in different places. There is a genocide that is considered even worse in Sudan, and it is just not televised. Palestine is a portal, right? And people are going through that portal whether they want it or not. So that polarity of what we see in societies rising, whether against or with, and it's like it's such an elusive thing to think, oh, I am with Palestinians or I'm against Israelis. It is not about that. It is not about that. It's about that there is a group of people thinking that they can just colonize places, um, get money, extract uh, resources, whether it's human or land or um, natural resources, and no, I can't. I can go just unaccounted for. No one can say anything. It has happened before, that colonial project, and then now it's okay that this is happening on live streamed social media. We can see it. We can see it every day. We can see the media being complicit about it. And I think, if anything, it needs to take us in a place of reflection of where am I not saying truth? Where am I not feeling truth because I'm scared of what would that lead to? Like, where is that fear coming from? Why do I feel like I cannot say this is wrong? I do I think that I don't know enough? Well, this is also brainwash. This is also conditioning to make you believe that you don't know enough. You don't know enough. Well, actually, we know enough. We know enough, just enough to know that this is not okay, that this is not natural. Like, we are human with ability and capacity to see and perceive and analyze. Why are we giving this away? I don't know. So, and here, this is the climate with the sections. And the more we're going to stand up, the more there's going to be an opposition. But there is a point that comes, and that crack that has the light coming through will slowly just break out. The veil is being removed slowly. And because it's being removed, it's becoming harder. There are people that are super confused about what they're feeling and experiencing and witnessing to the point that they are paralyzed, like I was at the beginning of this thing. So it is okay to feel paralyzed. It's okay to feel like you don't know what to do and the confusion of all of that and what is the best course of action. However, we just need to continue doing our best. And here we're just doing that. And I continuously tell everyone, and we go into conversations, is that even when we don't know what to do, we need to just continue doing our best. And sometimes getting out of bed is doing our best. And that's okay.
Amen to
You
that.
know?
Amen to that. Well, Rana, I want to thank you so much
Crazy
for
world,
joining me
man.
today.
Crazy world.
Yeah, this was really great. I got to know you on a deeper level, and thanks for being vulnerable and sharing some stuff about yourself personally. But you are one beautiful and brave human being, I'll tell you that.
Just normal human response.
Yeah, that most people don't have, even men. So kudos to you and your parents that created you in this world that you're in, with all the ups
Because
and downs.
my father just woke up here next to me.
Well, God bless you. We're definitely going to jump on this probably again in the future. We probably can dig a little deeper too on your journey over there on the Samud Flotilla. But yeah, more layers. But thank you so much, Rana. Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram, and newly I'm in TikTok because I realized that it is TikTok, not TokTok. And I was like, I'm gonna jump on that place too. So you can find me on Instagram at Rana Freestyle, and same on TikTok, and that's it.
All right.
You can
Well,
find me in
Rana,
Aotearoa in New Zealand. You can come here and attend to some of my concerts where I sing Palestinian folk music with an orchestra.
wow, I would love to do that. And if you come to the US, you better let me know.
يلا
Okay,
بكرة
Habibti. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
راسي.
Yalla, salam. Salam. All right, guys. Wow, what a wonderful human being. This person is just something else. I love it. You guys follow her, check her out. I will post some videos from her trip on the flotilla in the description, and I will probably share some videos during this episode. Until then, God bless you. Christ is King, and always free Palestine.